everyone. Thanks for coming and listening to me. So what we're going to talk about today is why you should be passionate about Bitcoin. And that's the reason. And that's my presentation. What is money? Money is a means of exchange. And that's all it is. There are fundamental use cases or other characteristics that are derived from money, but it's first and foremost a means of exchange. Store of value, an account of unit are all derived from it being a means of exchange. This is detailed in writings by many economists, Frédéric Bastiat, famous French economist, Karl Menger, father of Austrian economics, and others. Money is critical, it is ubiquitous, it is part of our lives in every aspect, it is part of trade and exchange. And our lives are about exchange. We exchange and we transact day in, day out. Money is so fundamental to our existence, we don't even notice it. Friedrich Hayek, Nobel laureate, famous Austrian economist, presented a groundbreaking concept. And the concept is that complex economies, complex industries, complex businesses are extremely complex. If you've built a business, if you've been involved in a business, if you've been involved in an industry, you know that there's specific knowledge that only you as an entrepreneur or you as a director or an executive or even as an employee understand how things are working. Only you at that point of exchange, of transaction, are able to absorb the information and to optimize your rational decision. And what Friedrich Hayek brought was a discussion about how the communication that's done all through the economy via this is prices. Industry players communicate via pricing. And the most efficient way to enable optimum allocation of resources is free market and let individuals decide for how to optimize their actions and their pricing. So what do we have? We have governments, central banks, absolutely monopolizing money. Absolutely centralized decisions of how much money should be in the economy, how much money shouldn't be in the economy, interest rates, they completely dominate and dominate this industry. Bringing back to Hayek, he's discussed how the quantity theory of money is an extremely difficult, almost impossible amount to conceptualize. And coming back to what you discussed earlier, the concept of centralized thinking and planning is just an inefficient manner to allocate resources. No one in our right mind, no one here would think, well, you know, flying around the world's a great idea. We should nationalize all the airlines flying in and out of the UK, and it'll be a much better industry. No one would say we should nationalize all the taxi ranks because it'll be a much better, more efficient method. But for some reason, we've been brought up and we've taught that the most efficient method is for our money to be absolutely monopolized. Hard money or private money is economically researched, it is economically ethical, and it is a proven and researched aspect. It doesn't have the shortfallings in the fiat basis of inflation, of unfinanced deficits, and business cycles as a result of inflation, as a result of interest rates manipulation. Further to come back to Hayek, in the 70s, he was already talking about how denationalization of money, private money, how this is the way to go. And he realized that there was no way the governments would ever give up this monopoly. There was no way that the government would relinquish. And he's quoted in the 70s as saying, if we ever have to have good money again, before we take it out of the governments, the only way we'll achieve that is by a sly, roundabout way to introduce something that they can't stop. Does that sound familiar? What is economic freedom? It's not financial freedom. It's not about having extreme wealth or financial independence. It's about liberating economies from the restrictions and constraints of government and central planning. The aggregation of data, the planning of information, all that specific information that's transferred in a private and free market is lost. Why is it so important? The research in economic freedom is vast and easily accessible. There are plenty of YouTube videos out there discussing, showing. I personally came across it from a presentation of Roger Ver, who does a great job of putting out this information. Freer economies have a greater quality of life, longer life expectancy. Average income is 7.1 times higher. Extreme poverty does not exist in highly free economies. The life expectancy is longer in freer economies. There's research on the US, there's research on poorer countries, and every time the data shows economic freedom leads to greater prosperity. So why do I believe cryptocurrencies have a chance at bringing economic freedom? You know, we talk about cryptocurrencies and we get it very mixed up because you got a coin market cap and you see 100 coins there. If you look at, let's say, the top 10 or the top 15, probably most of them aren't even trying to be money. If you go to their web pages, they're trying to be blockchains or distributed applications. So not all cryptocurrencies are actually focusing on being money. But the ones who are have the potential to be fungible, they're competition-driven, it's private, decentralized, non-censorable. But the most important, in my mind, is free of government intervention and non-inflationary. Now, as we know, it's the wild, wild west. We are constantly in a flux. I think that if we look back at the past couple of years, there's been a growing up and a development of investment tools and speculative tools as far as custodial services, how to invest in cryptocurrency, how to purchase cryptocurrency. But there is still, it's still at the frontier, and we're growing up. And why particularly Bitcoin? That is a critical question. Bitcoin broke the mold. Bitcoin cracked the system. Bitcoin was that sly, roundabout way that made the governments wake up. They haven't fully waked up yet. They're still kind of ignoring us. But it's our job to make, not necessarily the governments, but to make industry wake up more than anything. And you know, it's decentralized, low fees, but the critical thing is that it just is. It's adopted, it's reached maximum, it's reached a certain level of network adoption. Now, we're all coming out of a war. Some of us are still recovering. Others of us are still taking Prozac. And the important thing to realize is that it's about passion. The hash war between BCH and BSV was on the point you could argue was almost on irrelevant technical issues. But on the other point you guys was fundamental issues of how much influence or interference or involvement you have on the protocol level. But both teams are absolutely passionate about bringing money to the world, free money to the world. where do I see Bitcoin as having fundamentally beating day in, day out fiat money? And that is in non-custodial services. There are plenty of applications in the fiat world, Revolut being one of them, where you can have a very good user experience as far as moving money. Where crypto beats fiat hands down is the non-custodial services. And that's services like the money button, which I believe are absolutely revolutionary. The non-custodial service means that you are unleashed from the regulatory requirements of KYC, and that enables the ease of setting up a business as setting up a fate stand. But the greatest advantage is you can scale. Put up your desk, open up your site, install money button, and you don't have any KYC, you don't have any regulatory requirements as far as scaling from payments and money, as opposed to credit card processing, where the minute you're keeping people's money, there is a vast and enormous burden of regulation. Let's get behind Bitcoin. I mean, we're all here. That's what we're about. The more people use it, the more value it offers. The connection is exponential. The more applications we have, the more wallets we have, the more use cases we have, it leads to exponential growth, exponential value within the network. And it's all about adoption. The technicalities of being able to scale and being capable are a requirement, but they're not they get us to the table. But if we cannot get adoption, there's no value here. We need to get the big land movers. We need to get big enterprise. We need to get big corporations. We need to get banks. City bankers here. I mean, this is your time. This is your time as bankers for there being an opportunity to affect economic freedom. And I think it should be embraced by the banks. I'm sure that some of the banks would like an option not to be always beholden to the central bank. Why should you be? Now is the time. As always, now is the time. We are on a fast clock. The halving's coming. No one's waiting. I would say BSV and BCH are now straight out competitors. You know, who will take this absolute privilege of bringing global money? And there's nothing better than a competitor to bring out the best in you. So, in summary, Bitcoin is based under fundamental economic thinking. Initially, when you get in the space, you kind of think, well, it's just these crazy technological ideas, and it's a fundamental way to, if you want to be an entrepreneur, set up a business, live in an exciting environment. It's fundamentally new, creative technology built on stable, researched, boring economic theory. And it's absolutely liberating. Thank you very much.